Hey guys, welcome back to the Steel City Roundtable. I am Mark Kneebone, your host, and today, as always, I have my lovely co-host.
Hey there, everybody. Happy holidays.
Who are you?
I am Natalie Snyder. I am the happy co host.
Yes, so we're going to start off by saying Merry Christmas. This is our Christmas Miracle special. Um, you know, but let's get into the little stuff first. How was your week?
Hey, last full week in court before the holidays. It was a little bit of a rat race.
As
But it
always.
was, yeah, but it was all good. And I get to slow down for a little bit with the holidays.
Yes. For those of you who have been watching this for a while, if you remember Kelly, my old co-host and still one of my besties, she would always say that this is our church.
I agree.
You know, it's a place for us to come and get what's bothering us off our chests. Uh,
And make everybody else listen to it.
yeah, I mean, granted, we get more views when I talk bad about cops, but that's not what we're about, so that's just a once in a while thing. But there's a lot to say about that down the road.
I'm sure we will revisit.
So, on my mind today, since it is a holiday, and we talked about doing this on Thanksgiving, holidays suck.
They can.
They have notoriously sucked for me. So what I want to do is talk about that a little bit and just kind of get into, I'll probably dig into my shit a little bit more than normal. But just talk about the whole thing of how, relationships and holidays can be traumatic and they also can be amazing. It's just a matter of what you make of it, right? But let me go background a little bit
Okay.
and then we'll go from there. So I had 2 divorces in my family before I was 17. So I didn't see healthy families. So for me, the holidays always seemed to be fake. Always people were always putting on acts because the parents weren't getting along. They were arguing all the time. And then they all automatically were like, hey, we love each other for this day, right?
Christmas mask.
And then as I got older, my holidays became more about drinking, with my addiction, like the addiction I didn't admit I had for a very long time. So like every holiday involved drinking for me. It didn't involve spending time with my family. It didn't involve spending time with people that, helped raise me. It was more me spending time with my buddies at the bar getting hammered and just not doing anything else. And then as I progressed into my, my 40s and when I really hit the booze hard, then it was just surviving the holiday. I would go with my ex-wife, I would hang out with her dad, and I would drink, and I would get all fucked up every time. But literally, I lost touch with what holidays are about over the course of my 50 years. So, let's talk about the trauma that can come along with a holiday. For you, being a defense attorney, and having kids, and being married, like, what kind of traumas, if any, come up for you during the holidays?
Well, for me, on a very personal level, Christmas was weird for me when I was younger. My parents always did a whole lot to make it great and wonderful and awesome. But it was miserable getting to that point. So big thing, my parents did a wonderful job decorating their house for Christmas. And we would, help, but nothing we did was right. And so it was this yelling and screaming to go to then put on the perfect Christmas. Literally put on the perfect Christmas.
So once again, family struggles, and then all of a sudden everything's great.
Just
because
to
we're all focused in the same direction.
And to me, I don't think this is how it was intended by my parents or my mom. To me, it was like, well, it was all to how we're perceived by other people. The keeping up with the Joneses, the how does it look to other people versus like, I'm not sure that's what Christmas is about. Like, you're supposed to have fun and play in the snow and be dumb while you're putting up Christmas lights. Not like
family,
have a tape measure and it has to be exact.
My family, I don't remember my parents having any friends that came over or hung out. Like, really. Like, we were kind of, I moved out to Pittsburgh when I was like 15, and we lived in Patterson Township down in Beaver County, and the street that we lived on was like lawyers and doctors, and I think it was Chuck Knoll lived at the end of the street. Oh. So we were like the white trash. We got this, my parents bought this house, they got a steal in this house, it was owned by 2 gay guys, so it was completely ridiculous. That's another episode in itself, just remodeling that. But, for my family, I think it was all about making the kids happy and just putting their shit aside long enough for the kids to smile a little bit. because I mean we weren't rich, but we didn't struggle. You know, we were middle class. You know, but I had a lot of problems mentally, and you know, growing up, I had a lot of issues growing up. So you know, I grew up with two stepsister and stepbrother, and my sister, my biological sister, and it was we were tearing at each other all the time. Like the stepkids just didn't get along. And you know, I think you know, when I was like, you know, I was 6. My stepbrother's birthday is like a month after mine, and my sister and my stepsister, I think, were the same age. We're very close. I can't remember because I don't talk to my step siblings anymore. But like, I remember I would come home from school and I would just pick a fight with my brother and start ramming his head off the fucking bedpost. Like, we didn't get along, you know. So the parents had that struggle daily on top of trying to make a relationship work, you know, of having 4 different personalities that just didn't get along ever. So I think my parents spent the time just like, God, can we have one day where we don't hate each other? You know, it sounds like you were a lot different, you know.
Yeah, we didn't have, I didn't encounter kind of that part until I stepped into, you know, being a stepmom. So, and that's a whole nother episode for maybe never.
Writing that down, stepmom.
But for me, I just always had this concept that it was almost putting on a show, almost that it wasn't like a real thing. And for us, you know, it was, my mom had this annual Christmas party with her friends every year, and it was really nice, but like, it was always, I just felt like it wasn't for us to enjoy. You know, we'd put all these lights up and everything, and I didn't even see my parents enjoying it. Like, everybody's fighting and screaming, and so we can have the perfect Christmas. And, you know, everywhere from, what are we going to get people? And it was a very strange dynamic. So once I aged out, you know, was on my own, I just hated Christmas, because all it was to me is fighting, putting up Christmas lights that I don't care about, that mean nothing to me, to, you know, just weird stuff. It was all about appearances and nothing, no concept of what, other than religious wise, what Christmas was to me, but the day in and of itself. So I was like,
it lost meaning.
It lost meaning. So what I did was I ended up just working on the holidays.
So, good point. So talked a little bit about what your childhood was like when you hit like the mid-teen years to the early 20s and then into your adult life with a family. Kind of tell us how, you know, your viewpoint of holidays, let's just use Christmas as the holiday, you know, because we got to use one and it is Christmas. How did that affect your development and your growth and your attitudes and your behaviors on Christmas throughout the course of your life after that?
I think I just detached completely during, we'll just use college, like as that line of demarcation of moving out, you know, because I was less involved. I was living, you know, at school. So I think at that point there was a period of just detachment. Just Christmas didn't exist. I'm just going to, you know, if I'm home, you know, I'm home. And then as I got older, I just chose to work, so I didn't have to deal with it. And then I end up dating and subsequently marrying someone that has children. And teen children, you know, upwards from all the way from second grade up. And it was, well, okay, I now have to kind of be a part of that and not be, you know, a curmudgeon on Christmas, have to at least acknowledge it.
A curmudgeon? What is a curmudgeon?
Like, not quite the Grinch.
Like that guy over there?
Not quite a cross between the Grinch and Eeyore. Like,
like Shrek and... Like happy, but I hate Christmas.
Yes. Yeah. And then I realized, I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing I grew up with, which is just making it look good. But meanwhile, inside, I'm like, I hate this. This is miserable. This is terrible. And then, because we all know God has a crazy sense of humor, I was pregnant. My oldest child was to be due in February. And lo and behold, after Mass on December 21st, my water broke and she decided she didn't want to stay in anymore 3 days before Christmas. So that was...
She just wanted the presents.
Oh, well, mayhaps. Except that things were a little busy then. My husband was still on the job. I was pregnant. We hadn't started Christmas shopping yet. And now I'm in the hospital and having a kid.
Kind of awesome. Kind of cool. Kind of like a good story.
It makes for a great story, but then there was, you know, everything that happened with that. And so, but that was the first kind of real, the experience for me was I was released from the hospital on Christmas Eve. My child was not. I left the hospital without my baby.
So a lot of stress and a lot of trauma.
And all I wanted to do was get back to the hospital. And so the next day we're supposed to see my parent. You know, we had the older kids with us, and we're trying to make Christmas, but my head was nowhere there. I didn't. I'm just like, can we hurry up? And so, but the greatest thing did happen. And it was probably, other than my child being okay, it was my second beautiful Christmas experience. She was in the NICU, and when we got there, the one nurse, Brittany, who I adore to this day, had put a little sticky red bow on her head. But that was the first time where it was like, I don't give a hoot nanny about trees, gifts, lights, or anything else.
Yeah, I think, so you know Valentine's Day, everybody calls it a Hallmark holiday, right? Because it's like all about, like, you know, spending money for the most expensive gift you can find and what people think of it and
To
blah,
tell
blah, blah,
someone
blah.
something that you shouldn't have to tell them, you should show them every day.
Yes, like Valentine's is a useless holiday. I think it's stupid. I think it should be just no longer a holiday. Because if you love somebody, you do that on a daily. You know, you the little things like, oh, like I come home from work and I'm exhausted, and she's like, what do you want for work tomorrow for food? I'm like, don't worry about it. And then I wake up in the morning and she's cooking, you know. And then there's days like I come home and she's tired, and I'm like, just go into bed. Here's the heating pad. Just go to sleep. You know, like it's the little things. I think Christmas, since we are talking about Christmas, you know, the idea of Christmas, of course, the people that have a faith and have a belief in God, you know what it's about. I don't have to sit there and tell you. For me, though, it was never that way. It was never about the faith aspect of it.
Even when you were a kid?
It was about what I was getting for Christmas.
Okay.
It was about, was I getting everything I asked for? Because I was a selfish, greedy little fuck. And I wanted everything, you know. And I mean, that's me in my adult life, too. Like, I wanted everything, you know. So I never really had a faith-based opinion of Christmas. What about you?
That's the one thing that was consistent and that I did have. And I have some really special memories that are connected to that. We used to go to midnight mass, and we would go to my grandma's house after, and she was, you know, an old Dago. So down in her kitchen downstairs, she would make these fried donuts for like these Italian little fried donuts. They were so ridiculous. Now it's 1:00 in the morning, and I didn't realize.
We're going grocery shopping later, so
I didn't realize till I was an adult that meant either my mom was going to go home at 2:00 in the morning and start and finish wrapping Christmas presents, get them all under the tree, or that she had to do it all ahead of time so that we could do this. So for me, there's a lot of really great memories that are primarily associated with the faith aspects. Like in my household, every Christmas morning, the first thing we would do, because it's me and my brother, the first thing we would do is none of our nativities had Jesus in it. The standing joke in my house was the kid was in the drawer, in the dining room, in the play is where we kept all the baby Jesuses. So we would each take one or two. I was never allowed to have the fragile ones because I'm clumsy. And so I would get the non-breakable ones, and we would go around and by the time I was an adult, there were quite a number of nativities in my parents' house.
Just to be politically correct, was there a black Jesus?
There is now. I don't know if there was then. We have an Egyptian.
We have an Islam Jesus?
I don't think so.
See, you're racist.
Oh, for the love of all things holy. So we're going to go back to my story now. This was mine.
Sorry.
We would go around to each and every nativity set and sing happy birthday to Jesus. And it is a treasured memory. And I am not too shy to tell you that I now make my kids do the same thing Christmas morning. We don't have 15, so all
it's different, but it's kind of cool.
But all my good memories are attached to the faith aspect, and the ones that aren't so good are the stuff.
See, I grew up a religion, it's called Moravian. It's very simple. I'm from Bethlehem. Believe it or not, I was born in Bethlehem, Eastern PA. So, Bethlehem, Jesus, Bethlehem, different Bethlehems, but Bethlehem. So, Christmas is huge back there. And the Moravian religion is very prominent back there. They have what's called the Moravian star. I think it's like a 32 or some point star that people hang in their windows in the holidays. It's really cool looking, and they do the candlelight services for the holidays. So last night, Shelly and I went to Grace Life Church out in Monroeville because they had a Christmas show, and they handed out candles, and I started sweating because it reminded me of my mother yelling and screaming at me to get ready and stop fucking around, and we got to go to church. We have to go to the candlelight service because my mom was a Bible thumper, so it was like, we got to go, let's go. So I immediately started getting anxiety last night, and my legs started going, and Shelly's sitting there, she's got her hand on my hand, and I'm just like I'm uncomfortable because it brought back the memories of a person that I don't talk to anymore. My mother, after my dad died from COPD and ALS, I hadn't talked to him for like 15 years, and then I reconnected with him, and as a result of that, I stopped talking to my mother when he died because, I found out that all the stuff that she had told me throughout the years was bullshit and lies. Like, your dad doesn't want you. He doesn't want to come around. Meanwhile, I find out that every time he wanted to come, she threatened to call the police to have him arrested if he showed up. Shit like that. So she used us as pawns to keep my father out of my life. And I think I was probably 41, maybe 40, 39. Yeah, 39, I think, when I finally started talking to him again. And to find out all these things, and, being a former cop, I just don't accept what I hear. So I called my mother's brother, who I'm close to. And he's like, yeah, your dad used to talk about this shit all the time. Like, my own mother's brother was like, yeah, your mom
Wow.
kept him out of your lives. So, trauma from holidays. Like, I miss, my idea of a holiday with my father was, he'd pick me up, we'd go to lunch, we'd go to his house, maybe we'd spend the night. If it fell on like, time where he had off, we might stay there for a few days. But it seemed staged. It seemed fake to me because I always found the bad in holidays. I was just a negative kid, and I was a negative adult. I always found a reason not to enjoy the holiday, But back to the thing with my mom, like, I haven't talked to her since he died. Not once. My last conversation with her was like, tell me this is not true. And didn't defend herself. Didn't try to argue with me. And I was like, well, this is the last time you're going to talk to me. Click. And I have not talked to her since. So, for me, the trauma comes from the broken relationships that I've experienced and that were part of my early childhood and my early holidays. I've never let go of that stuff. As I've gotten older, I'm getting a little better, but, you're saying that you didn't have that kind of trauma. Like, your trauma was, a completely different world than mine. But it just shows that, trauma is trauma. Like, holidays are not all fucking ribbons and flowers,
And they're hard, different ways of hard, different types of hard for different people. But I would generally say we can probably all agree that universally, at least in some aspect for every single person, holidays are hard. Be it because you have to work, or because finances are tight, or because your stepkids aren't getting along, or because, you're not getting along with your parents. In some way, I think holidays, because it forces that time, supposedly, at least physically together, that then is like, I can't escape from these tense situations. Or the guilt. I remember there being times, like when I started my practice, that money was tight because I didn't have a lot coming in, so it was harder to buy gifts. I remember when I was a kid and things changing for my parents, that you realize that that's a huge stressor. Finances are a huge stressor on people, whether they have kids or not, just because the expectation is that you are going to spend money on something or some people's throughout the holidays. And if you don't have it, then it's like, well, what do I do? Do I just go underground and not see anybody during the whole holiday season because I can't bring anything? I literally can't. And that's really hard on people. Now I add to it is, this is the one really, really tough thing with, one of the tough things with being a defense attorney. I have people that aren't going to see their kids over Christmas, that aren't going to be home for Christmas. And then I wonder about things like you're saying. Is their co-parent, what are they telling them about this situation? Is it a mom and or dad doesn't want to see you and they're just not coming? Or were they honest and be like, they can't because they're in jail? Which one's better? Which one's more traumatic for their kids? Which one's less? So that's a whole different thing that I had no concept of till I became a defense attorney. It's like, oh, none of these people are going to be home and I can't do a darn thing about it.
Yeah, see, as an adult, from 33 to, what was I, fucking whatever age I was when I quit the police department. I can't do math. I worked pretty much every holiday. So, my idea of a holiday with my ex-wife was like, I'd give her a check. Go get what you need. Go put it towards a bill. Do whatever you got to do. Like, that's also a sign of how fucking bad our relationship was. Where, here's your check, just another bill. But, I think that also had a big impact in my later life, is that I didn't see a lot of good shit on Christmas or on Thanksgiving. Like, I was out running calls, slave to the radio, dealing with domestics and people beating their wives and beating their kids and, people breaking in and shootings and stabbings and all this bullshit. So I think subconsciously I just attached a negative connotation with every fucking holiday, because I was just like, I didn't see anything good on holidays as an adult. And that just reinforced my negative opinion of holidays, so it just became so much stronger. I don't want to say hatred, but complete ambivalence to holidays. Like, I just didn't care anymore.
Well, and it's a sad state that, like, for me, that negativity, it's notorious for, you'll hear, well, I can't put this on any of my colleagues, but I've been known to say holidays are good for business, and that's a sad state of affairs.
Mm-hmm.
But they are good for business.
Oh, I always made a ton of money on holidays, and like, this is crazy. Like, fast forward 50 years old, I have both days off. I have tomorrow off and I have Christmas Day off.
When's the last time that happened?
I can't tell you, probably 20 some years ago. Like, I'm high enough on the seniority list now where, like, I had Thanksgiving off. I have Christmas off. And she's like, what are we doing for Christmas? I'm like, fuck. Like, what are we doing for Christmas? Like, I don't have a fucking clue. So we're going to go be those dumbasses that go shopping after we get done here and go buy all the little shit that we need. Like, and she's like, what are we making for dinner? I'm like, well, let's get to the grocery store and see what they have, and then base our decisions off that. I'm still hoping she makes me her Mexican Christmas dinner. I don't think that's going to happen, though.
What does that consist?
I have no idea. That's why I want to know, because she's a great cook, and I love her food. But,
I want to know what it is.
I'll tell you as soon as I know. I'll fucking send you pictures. Shit. But, so talking about how business is good in the holidays, how do you, as a mom and a wife, separate that aspect of your life from the family part of a holiday? Like, I couldn't do it being a cop with no kids. I'm also mentally ill. Confirmed and diagnosed mentally ill.
I think that I had to finally concede that in some, if not many respects, there is no separation, and stop forcing myself into a separation. My phone's still going to ring. It's how I handle it, what I do with it. And know that it's going to happen. And I think I'm blessed in the sense that this is the environment my kids grew up in. My husband was a cop, so he used to always work holidays. So now it was, once he left the job, that was another weird thing. It's like, oh, wait, everybody's here. Now what do we do? We're not used to this. But for me, knowing that, in really finding the positives, which is, okay, it sucks for other people, and it's a sad state of affairs that holidays are good for business. Valentine's Day is great for business, especially if you're the female attorney, because domestics are rampant. Just a matter of fact. So for me, it's like, this is kind of twisted, but it is what it is. And at least something positive for my family comes out of the negative of mom's phone still ringing. So, I'm not going to, unless it's absolute dire, major emergency, phone calls are not getting returned Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
So let's take this to a different point. Mentally, how do you said there's no separation. Mentally, how do you deal with that in order to not let it affect your holiday? Because I think a lot of people out there are in similar situations where they have a job, nurses, doctors, surgeons, police officers, firemen, paramedics, veterans, like, they're all, quote unquote, in the line of fire all day, every day. So, I was never able to separate anything in my head. Like, I could not take work home with me. Mm-hmm. So it always affected my holidays. I'd be fucking bitchy, crying, whining, fucking angry, all this bullshit that is like childish as shit. So how did you, because you have mental health things going on as well. How did you, if you did, make sure that didn't affect your holidays with your family?
I finally let it all coexist in my brain. I wasn't going to be able to turn off work when I got home. It wasn't going to, forget the phone, it wasn't going to turn off in my head. I had to just accept it because the more effort I felt, or the more effort I was putting into, okay, turn it off, turn back into mom, turn off lawyer, back into mom, back into wife, was A, setting myself up for failure because we can say all we want. You can't necessarily always turn it off. You just can't. So then you're creating yet another inadequacy for yourself and another failure because, well, I couldn't do it. So you let them coexist, and it takes some of the, at least for me, took some of the angst, anxiety, and worry out of it. Because it's like, okay, it's just here, normalize it, let it live there, let it hang out, and then it's not distracting. Then it's not like you're not pulled away mentally or emotionally because you got lost in your own head, because you were trying not to, the harder you try not to think about something, the more you think about it.
So that's really profound if you think about it. You know, when you say that, what I hear in my head is, I'm not Natalie the lawyer, I'm not Natalie the mom, I'm not Natalie the wife, I'm just Natalie.
It's taken a long time to get there, but yes.
That's pretty profound. Like, that's something that takes a lot of us our entire lives to figure out, that we don't have to separate the parts of us. We just have to be who we are. Good, bad, and different. No matter what the fuck's going on, just be me. Be you.
But it's a really hard, long place to get to. I'm happy I started getting there before I was dead, or before it killed me and drove me insane, trying to separate it all. But I think that it's very self-serving, and I think that's the part that would push a lot more people to get to that point if they realized it, which is, it was just to save, my sanity, which in turn saves my family, so that I can just be completely there. But it also takes people being hella understanding that are around you, and that, let it all coexist.
It's a Christmas miracle. Like, I'm being a fucking smartass, but, no bullshit. That's like the first time I've, like, had that thought. Like, because I've always tried to separate who I was. Like, I'm a truck driver now, right? I work 14 hours a day. I'm tired when I come home. So when I come home, I'm still Mark. I'm just exhausted, tired, bitchy Mark. And to look at it as, like, the whole idea of me as a whole, that's something I don't think I've ever been able to look at. Like,
because we break ourselves up into, okay, this is courtroom Natalie, this is cop Mark, this is mom Natalie, this is, boyfriend Mark. We're compartmentalizing ourselves, and in turn not allowing ourselves to be full people.
I mean, this is why I love what we're doing. Like, what you and I are doing right now. This is why I love it, because, everybody deals with these things to a different level, right? Like, everybody out there, you guys deal with stresses, you deal with traumas, you deal with addiction, you deal with mental health issues. And, we all struggle with the different parts of our personality and our character and who we are. And, like I said, just thinking about it as, like, we are not separate individuals within ourselves. We are the sum product of each part of us. Mm-hmm. So if we can get in touch with the idea of, this is just who I am, and it's okay, because I'm going to find a way to, like, do what I need to do and not be a selfish prick, and not be an alcoholic, and not be an addict, and not be mentally ill and miserable all the time. That's something that I don't think I've ever been able to do.
Well, because then essentially you're doing what your parents couldn't do, and you're making all the stepkids in your mind get along.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been able to separate anything. I've never been able to just be me. Like, and what I mean by that is, like, I always had a front. I always had a persona that I put on when I was out in public. I always had a persona when I was at work, when I was a cop. I always had a persona when I was with my friends. I always had a persona when I was with my girlfriend or my wife or whoever. Like, I never was able to just let my guard down and just be me. And for good, for bad, for horrible, for whatever. I've done a lot of shitty things. And I've had a lot of shitty things happen to me, just like everybody else has. And, it's kind of awesome because I have her, because I am able to just be me. Because we have conversations all the time. She's like, if you were drunk, I probably couldn't be with you. I said, I am a drunk. I'm just not active anymore. But it's really awesome that, through my recovery and through my facing my mental health issues head on, that I can even think about being that person. Think about being that person that can just be himself.
Well, and you said, like, you're able to be you. You're able to let that mask down, let that persona down, and just, start to see who. But you're still going to have days you come home tired, Mark. You're still going to have bitchy Mark days. You're still going to have, but they're all, at least in this place, and you got to start somewhere in this place, they all can exist at the same time.
I think the takeaway from that is we just have to learn. They always say comfortable in your own skin, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just have to accept who we are, for good and for bad, and realize that anyone around us who is part of our lives does the same.
And until any of us do that, you can't know what you might want to improve or you might want to fix if you're not acknowledging that it's there.
It's crazy. It's kind of
well, that's me in a nutshell. But
no, but I mean, like, this is really profound. I didn't see us going this way today. Actually makes me a little emotional because it's like I look back on where I was. I'll be 20 months sober on the 5th. I look back to when I went to rehab, and my rehab center just closed.
Closed?
They closed the doors.
Oh.
Yeah, I was planning on going back there for my 2-year anniversary to speak.
That's got to be an emotional kind of thing.
I saw a Facebook post. They were losing money, and they shut the doors like that week. So the place that saved my life, and 100%, Transitions Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, you guys saved my life. Clyde, Tyler, everybody down there, like, I know you're going to do well, but shit, man. Like that.
Yeah, that gave me goosebumps. That's an emotional.
It's sad. It's sad for me because, that's where my journey started. That's literally where I started living my best life for the first time. By facing my demons and starting down the harder road. And like I said, 20 months later, I'm still sober. I'm happy. I've got friends like you in my life now, and Kelly, and I've got a great woman at my side who will die for me.
You are blessed.
She likes knives, but I'm kidding, by the way. It's a Mexican reference.
I just thought it was a good way to keep that in the forefront of your mind, to stay on this side.
But yeah, like it really is depressing because without that particular treatment center, I don't think I would be sober. I don't think I would be on the road to good mental health. I don't think I would be on the road to being a better person and a better, friend, uncle,
Yeah, that's got to be, not nearly as big a thing, but, when I think about the officer from Duquesne that saved me, I remember when I found out he was leaving Duquesne, and I was long gone. I was out of law school at that point, so I was not going back. But my first thought was, how many girls, kids, students are not going to get saved now because he's not there? And other people moving on from those types of positions, and obviously I have clearly a soft spot for university type, officer and what was done for me. But I think about that's a special type of person, the same with like a treatment center that is almost, and I would venture to say, I could probably say for you, somewhere in your head was, what about the people they're not going to be able to save like me?
Yeah,
and that's gut wrenching.
So the place I went, once again, is called Transitions Treatment Center in Delray Beach. They had a VAFR program, Veterans and First Responders. So the VA contributed a lot of money to that treatment center. So as a first responder, I was in that program. So, the VA was flipping a lot of the bill for that. And apparently that paid for a lot of other things, the money that was coming in from the government. So from what I understand, they started getting less and less and less veterans and first responders, and they started hemorrhaging money.
The unfortunate part is I don't think that meant there were less and less veterans and first responders that needed it.
Just less and less at that treatment center. So they're out of business now, and, they literally saved my life. But let me get off that real quick because I'm going to keep going. So we're talking about how, being able to be a better person, better boyfriend, better friend, better uncle. I have 3 nephews and a niece to my sister. And my sister went through a very traumatic time in her marriage. And, you know, all 4 of her kids have been drastically affected by the divorce. And, you know, one of the regrets I have is that I wasn't there because I hated her husband so much.
Mm.
And I would tell my sister, like, hey, let me come up there and fucking put this guy in his place. And she'd be like, no, 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 you know, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, we'll talk about this. We're going to do a whole episode on this because it's something I really need to talk about. But so my youngest nephew, he's 17. And, you know, we talk every week now. And when I was in my addiction, I talked to him like 3 times in his entire life. You know, and he's the youngest at 17. I think the oldest is around 23 or 24.
So that would have been from his birth until...
Yeah, like, I mean, my godson is his oldest brother. I don't talk to him anymore because he's done some things that I disagree with, and it's just better for me not to be a part of it. But, like, I can't imagine what their holidays are like right now because, you know, their father's a total piece of shit, and, you know, my sister's struggling, and the kids are struggling. You know, they don't have a family unit anymore. You know, and I wasn't there for them for most of their lives. But I get to do it now. You know, like I get to help when I can. I get to talk to him and be, as most of my friends will say, this is probably a bad idea, but a healthy role model. You know, a good male input in his life. You know, like, for example, he just had to borrow some money to pay some bills. So I was like, we're gonna do it as a loan. Like, we need to teach you fiscal responsibility. So it's like no one else in his family is going to do that right now because nobody in his family is really good at it, you know? So it's really cool. It's sad. It's really sad. But it's good in the same point that now I get to be there. You know, even though it's later in life, I still got him young enough where I can positively affect his... You know, the other 3 might be gone, you know, you know, and we'll get into that, but they may be gone. They may be to the point of not coming back, but at least I can, you know, dispel the shit that's being done towards my mother from her ex and be like, you know, that's not what happened. Like, you know, I don't go into specifics with them because it's her information to share, but, you know, I actually get to be a part of his life now and get to see how much of an amazing young man he is.
Well, and you get to be what you needed at his age, too.
Yeah, like, yeah, I never thought about it that way. Why you got to do that?
Well, I thought that's why I was here. But you get to be what you needed, but also he has someone that relationship is different than a parent relationship, you know. And
it's more of a friend.
It is more of a friend, but
like an older brother.
But still a role model, yeah. And you can do it where it's not that dynamic where you're going to hold this over his head. No, you're just trying to help him learn. You're not going to, you know, make him go scrub your toilets for, you know, like people would, why'd I give you that idea? But in some scenarios, people would do stuff like and further degrade someone. You're using this time and this interaction to build him and to give him some confidence because he's going to feel great when he's been able to make a couple payments back to you. It's going to be huge for his confidence.
I mean, I did tell him I wasn't going to come up there and break his legs if he was late, and he was like, what about my fingers? He's a great kid. You know, he's doing concrete. He's doing concrete finishing. He's got a second job. Like, he's 17, and he's realizing that, you know, like I said, I'm not getting too deep, but like his father was having him pay like $800 a month for car insurance. My nephew was
paying. Does any car insurance cost $800?
My nephew was paying for his father's car insurance, and he's 17 years old and was barely working like 20 hours a week. You know, like, that's the kind of shithead this guy is. You know, using his kids to fund his own bullshit. You know, so, you know, for him to have, quote unquote, a loan and the responsibility of paying it back, he actually was excited about it, which I told him, don't get excited about loans, they suck. But he was kind of excited because, one, I was helping him out. You know, like I was doing something for him where he knew he wasn't going to be required to fucking do some bullshit down the road.
But think about this. Okay, you were absent for how you said most
Forever.
of his life. Okay. What about the fact that even with that, he felt safe enough with you and trusted you enough to come to you?
Mm-hmm.
That's got to feel great. I mean,
It
just from a
does.
selfish perspective, to know that even with that, what you've done in that time of being back in his life made him feel, and already someone that's been traumatized, someone that clearly is not going to be full on board
Oh,
immediately
he's got a
trusting.
lot of trauma from this thing.
Right. And you, as, first of all, just look at, he's got father issues. You're a guy. Like, that's an additional trauma that you were able to get him past. That is going to be huge for him and for you.
It's good shit. I mean, alcohol has taken a lot. Let me rephrase that. I've given a lot to alcohol. It didn't take anything because I made the decision to be a drunk. You know, um, it took away Christmases, and it took away the growth and development of my nephews and my niece, like seeing them grow and being there for them, and doing the little things like sending them a birthday card, or like, God, I'm a piece of shit, such a piece of shit. I didn't do any of that stuff, and all it took was 5 minutes out of my time to not be selfish. And in the heart of my addiction, like, all I could think of was staying drunk. Whatever I had
You
to
didn't
do
have
to
the
stay drunk.
capacity to send a card then. I mean, it just wasn't in your wheelhouse, because you're not going to think that's about the last thing you're going to think of when it's, I need to stay drunk.
Yeah, I mean, it's like somebody said at my treatment center. I was always like, I'm a piece of shit. I'm a piece of shit. I'm a piece of shit. They're like, you're not a piece of shit. You're a sick person trying to get well. It is a disease, and no matter how you cut it, it's acknowledged as a disease in the medical community. It is a disease in the way it attacks your body, and the way it attacks your mind, and the way it takes control of everything, just like cancer would, but in a different way. Cancer takes control of your body and kills you. Well, you let alcoholism or addiction sit too long, it'll kill you. I'm not comparing it to cancer because it's completely different, but it's a disease. And, the fact that this young man is willing to let me into his life at this late stage is kind of amazing. Once again, it's a Christmas miracle. Like, it shows that what I'm doing is the right thing. Like, being sober and trying to reconnect and doing this show. Like, everything I'm doing shows me that I'm on the right path to being a better human being. I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it.
Well, because you're past the point of, like, things falling into place. I mean, to me, that would be kind of right after you started recovery, and it's now you're kind of just smooth, and you can see the bumps ahead, and you can see the potholes behind, and just be able to move forward and help him move forward. I mean, this is, from my perspective, when you were just talking about this, you basically, I would venture to say, well over 99% saved him from being one of my clients.
I hope so.
Because that's so much of what it comes down to, is people just not having those positive people. And it's also a good human lesson for him to learn to forgive people, and for you to learn to forgive yourself.
What I told him was, I sent him a link to the podcast. I said, watch this and you'll find out how fucked up your uncle is. I was like, I want you to know, like, who I am, the stuff that you don't know. I want you to know the stuff that you have not seen. The addiction, the mental health, the just being a bad human being. He needs to know that that's me, that I've been that person. Because I'm hoping that him seeing that shows him that no matter what he's going through right now, like, there is a bright side to this. Like, all he's got to do is bear down, struggle, get through it, deal with it, and he'll be okay. He'll be better than okay.
Well, because there aren't enough humans willing to show, myself included, show and expose their demons, their vulnerabilities. But those are the things that other people need to see to, on a very deep level, understand us and trust us. And there's things I've said to you, I've probably overshared with my kids. But I think, at some point down the road, I hope that they realize, oh, wait, I'm not a piece of shit. I'm just struggling. And, I'm not the only one that's probably had this struggle, but I'm certainly not the only person struggling. So let's find those places where we can figure out how to fix it. And if everybody's putting on a mask, nobody knows what's real around them.
See, I'm still struggling every day. It goes as far as, like, the recovery community here is weird. Like,
Here, like in Pittsburgh?
in Pittsburgh, it's
Okay.
weird. It's fucking strange. Like, I went to a treatment center a couple weeks ago. I was like, hey, I have a podcast. I want to come in and speak to your clients. Like I want to come in and have a conversation about what I've gone through, where I am now, how I got there. And they're like, "Do you do AA?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. I'm not super active anymore. I still go." But they're like, "Well, if you're not, you know, we're strict 12A, 12 step here." I'm like, "What's that have to do with anything?" Like, I have a story of recovery that I think can help someone. And you're telling me that because I am not a diehard 12 stepper, that I might not be able to do it? Like, it's weird. Like, I had a guy on here a couple weeks ago. His name's Sean Livingston, I Am Redemption podcast down in Austin, Texas. Dude, there's so many podcasts, and their recovery community is crazy down there. Like, they all know each other. Like, there's podcasts everywhere, and they get involved in all this shit.
I guess I just assumed everybody knew it was part of it because not.
It's not. It's just, I'm not ragging on AA. I believe in AA. You know what I mean? My recovery plan is a little different. But it's just crazy how, like, you want to stop somebody from sharing something that could potentially stop someone from going down that path just because they're not going, "Oh, I 12-step myself today. I 10-step myself. Oh, I found my higher power." Like, give me a fucking break.
But isn't it the same? I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's not my struggle. I have plenty of my own. I don't need to pick up any extras. But isn't it like you and I talked about that? You, as back in your cop days, you as a cop, me as a defense attorney, and a prosecutor, shouldn't the do-all end-all goal be justice? Correct? Not winning, losing. Okay. So from my outside perspective on this, shouldn't it be to have more people successfully recover,
Yes.
no matter how they get there?
Yes, but you know what? Unfortunately, recovery is a huge fucking business. It is a huge business. I mean, my treatment center, I think it was like $2,600 a day
Wow.
for me, and it was like over $3,000 for veterans. And you think, do that. I was there for 41 days.
I couldn't do
Like,
it.
do the math. Like, it's a huge business. So
Wow.
the more sick people there are, the better it is for the recovery.
so
the
it's
recovery
Big
money
Pharma,
makers.
who got into, throw that in the mix too. It's the same type of.
Yeah, like, I don't deny that. The treatment center I went to was about making $1. They just happened to hire some really fucking amazing people, that really cared about what they were doing. God, I always get off on these rants about recovery, but it's just so important to me. It's so important, the mental health and
But there's somebody out there who's not a strict 12-stepper that's going to hear this and be like, "Oh wait, that doesn't mean I'm doing it wrong. That doesn't mean I'm going to stay a drunk because I'm not doing it this way."
I mean, my recovery is, doing this, listening to Kill Tony podcast on the truck, laughing my ass off, keeping good people in my life. Like, it just all comes back around to, like, it's Christmas, right? It's supposed to be a time for celebration. And we've talked about a lot of negative stuff, but this is like the first, like, last Christmas was hard for me because it was my first Christmas sober. This is my second. This is the first one where I'm not, like, looking over my shoulder every day going, "Am I going to drink today?" And it's nice to be able to enjoy the holiday again. Still, the faith aspect isn't there for me, but, like, my girlfriend and I are going to go to the fucking grocery stores after this and go fuck around and try to buy shit when there's nothing left, and we're going to spend a day together. We're going to spend tomorrow together. We're going to spend Christmas together. Like, we're going to spend time together just being. She's going to suffer while I play video games, but, like, I'm grateful to be alive now. No matter where my life takes me, I'm grateful to be alive because, as so many addicts and alcoholics, like, I was so close to being dead by my own hand, and, if you're watching this and you're, it's a holiday, if you're struggling, all you got to do is call somebody. You have friends, you have family, you have people in your life that give a shit. Reach out to the AA hotline, reach out to the NA hotline, call a friend, do whatever you got to do to get through the day. But just remember that, if you deal with your shit, it does get better. It has to get better because if you're doing the right things, how the fuck could it go wrong? I just don't see how it goes wrong. And for me to say that after 34 years of heavy drinking and hiding behind the bottle forever, like, man, I'm living proof. Like, life is good. Life is really good. So
It's not a spectator sport.
oh yeah, life sucks, wear a helmet, right? I think that some comedian said that back in, like, the 90s. So your plans for the rest of the holiday?
Well, not a whole lot. will finish up wrapping Christmas presents this evening so that I can get them out of my bedroom so that my kids can regain control of the bathroom in our room that they like to use because they don't want to go upstairs. Going to Mass tomorrow with my mom at a church I do not like, with a priest I do not like, but I love my mom, and we're closer to the end than the beginning. And I don't know. I mean, my dad dropped dead unexpectedly. I don't know how many more Christmases I will have, and it's not out of obligation. This is probably the first time that it's not out of obligation. It's not out of, so I don't feel guilty later. It's, no, I want to spend this time with her. I want her grandkids to spend this time with her. Do Christmas morning at the house, bring my mom over for dinner, very laid back, just us. Don't care if my kids are in pajamas. I will force them to wear something nice for church because we're going with Grammy, so it's got to be a little nicer than they would, myself included. And we will be singing Happy Birthday to Jesus Christmas morning, and I will send you the recording of that so you can chuckle about
we're playing that on the next episode. We're going to play that because it could be
family traditions. And just try to just be there. Like, I don't want to go into it. It used to be I'd be up most of the night Christmas Eve trying to get presents wrapped because I waited till, because I was busy, didn't have time. And then you're tired and you're miserable. And now, of course, I'll get it done at a reasonable time. And I have teenagers now who no longer wake up at 5 a.m. on Christmas morning. But I'll be awake going, and I'll laugh about how I used to grumble when they'd be up. Mom, is it time to get up yet? But that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I'm in the doghouse right now because I slept till like noon. We were supposed to go to Target earlier. You can ask her about that. She'll tell you. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, at the end of this, you know, life is not without trauma. There's no part of life that is without trauma, without difficulty, without stress.
None of us would grow.
The difference is for people like me who suffer from mental health and addiction, you know, once we make that decision to make the next best decision, things change. You know, you don't have to live unhappy. You don't have to be comfortable being uncomfortable anymore. You just have to face your demons and do it with family and do it with friends and do it with your support network, and life will get better. It's going to get rough first. It's going to get shitty first. But if you dedicate yourself to being a better human, and you dedicate to being healthy, and you dedicate to beating addiction and mental health, I personally don't see any way life could get worse, because anything that comes your way, you can deal with it.
Well, and I think one of the things, at least from the mental health perspective, that makes it better is you're working towards making it better, but you're also realizing that there are benefits in those struggles and in those dark times, and being able to get yourself out of it with or without help, but somehow you came out of it. But you also learn, at least for me, to appreciate life and appreciate the holidays being, you know, maybe not what they look like in the magazine or on the Hallmark movie, but that it's, you know, time where I've got one kid leaning on me, another kid playing a video game. That maybe that's not what I envisioned. Maybe I thought we'd all be singing Kumbaya in front of the fire with snow falling outside, and it didn't freaking work out that way. Yeah. But maybe that's just what it is, and just, you know, stopping myself and my internal from being like, the house has to be cleaned up for Chris. Okay, nobody's coming over, but even if they... No, that's not what matters, but it takes, like, I literally have to yank my own leash and stop myself from going home and being like, no more stuff's coming in this house, no presents are going to get open, because where are we going to put them, because your stuff's not put up. Okay, you just killed it, and it's a fight, because that's my instinct, because I think that's what a lot of us, you know, grew up with, and you have to get rid of this and get rid of... Well, now you just made everybody damn miserable. You know, it used to be, well, we never made Christmas cookies, because that was, you know, one of those things that I used to hate as a kid, because it became a production, and my brother and I would fight. And it's one of the things I started doing with my girls after Christmas, like that week between Christmas and New Year's, when daycare was closed or school was closed, you know, I had to clear my count or I was home more, that it's just a different tradition. And I think if you're too busy trying to make things be or look like either what you thought they should be because of something you saw at some point in your life, or what we conjured up in our own minds it should be, but it's what you make it. And sometimes the peacefulness is just what it needs to be.
I mean, you don't have to believe that, you know, Christmas is rose-scented farts. Like, it's not. You know, I went from being anti-Christmas to this year being like, it's Christmas. And not feeling bad about it, not feeling stressed about it, just being like, it's another day. Maybe next year I'll be looking forward to Christmas, you know.
But it's a day that, if possible, you can do something nice for someone or some other people.
I mean, I have decorations up. I haven't decorated ever. And this is all Shelly. Like, she wanted more. She wanted me to put a Christmas tree on a table. I was like, this is enough. I've got all that shit back there.
Should have called me. I have a little one from. I would have.
We got them over there.
Well, yeah, but I would. I mean, I would have brought another one.
Yeah, but I mean, I put the Grinch up there, which she bought for me because she's smart. She knows me. But let's. So, if you have, we do this every show. But if you have anything, as a mom, you know, as someone who's struggled with mental health, and as someone who's been in abusive relationships, and you've been through it, what would you tell, you know, someone out there that's struggling right now? You know, whether it's mental health or addiction, or whether they just can't get in the holiday spirit, if anything.
Let it all coexist. Don't force yourself into what you think you should be feeling. You feel what you feel, and nobody can tell you your feelings or opinions are wrong. They may not understand it, they may disagree, but they can't be wrong. So if you're not in the Christmas spirit, okay, don't be in the Christmas spirit. But don't turn around and be a dick to everybody you walk past. But probably the most important thing I can say is I have to amend a statement I made a little bit ago. And it was, you know, I'm not answering my phone on Christmas Eve, Christmas. I'll talk to, you know, I'll return calls after Christmas. If anybody out there needs something, needs an ear, I will answer, I will call you back. That is the exception to this. But know that sometimes doing something small, like holding a door for someone in a crazy ass giant eagle, and them saying thank you, that's a little bit more of the Christmas spirit.
More wise words from Natalie Snyder. And I'll put my little caveat on it. Don't be a dick today, tomorrow, during the holidays. Just don't be a dick.
If you're going shopping,
Yeah,
you waited till the last minute. Don't be a jerk to the person at the store.
Put your personal shit aside, you know, and just be in the moment. Because as an addict and someone recovering from mental health, one of the biggest things I've learned is that you have to be present in what's going on right now. Not worry about what happened 10 years ago. Not worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. Just be present in the moment. Enjoy the relationships you have. Enjoy the people in your life. Enjoy the fact that you're still taking an air today and you're able to be here to be bitchy if you want to be bitchy. So, on that note, Natalie, thank you. I don't know if you guys noticed yet, but Natalie's going to be my main girl. So she's going to be here a lot. But as always, you can reach us at steelcityroundtable@gmail.com. Our socials are on afterwards. The website will probably be going up here next week. And remember, there's always a seat here for you at the round table. If you want to reach out, come on the show. If you want to give us comments, you know, do what you got to do, and Merry Christmas.
Merry